All right, guys, welcome. Let's see what we can do about our vocal sessions lessons. We this will be the first one. Okay, so the first lesson, try as much as you can to keep tab. Since it's a new series we're adopting to keep our vocal students who are unable to meet up with classes on site to have something to work with in respective. Uh, Place where they are joining us from. So, and that is to say, this is more like our first heating up to virtual learning, okay, online learning or correspondence learning. So please remember to share your questions on our discussion platform on WhatsApp and enjoy. So today I'm going to be doing like going all over again. So we're starting from introduction to vocals according to rehearsal house. That is what we refer to as VOC 100. Okay, remember that the VOC 100 program is about 3 sessions. Okay, so there are certain things which you have to do, which should typically make the practice or workshop aspect of these 3 sessions to take span about 3 weeks. So if you follow the routine within 3 weeks, the objective vocal wise of the course for you as a student should be realized. Okay, so I encourage us to give our best. The voice is just like any other instrument, though much more unique than every other instrument. But you want to study it, you want to learn how to use it for uh, good performance, for artistry, for that is artistic performance musically, uh, for remember that the where we are now, this is something I've talked about in class before. In terms of vocal music, things have really evolved. So you are at a point where you are singing diverse kinds of sounds. You sing effects. You every sound which can be amplified. So it's not like the era before microphones, okay, wherein sounds which could not be naturally amplified were taken out of the way, were not regarded as taught sounds. So, but now many of the things which were called untaught sounds, that is, sounds which could not be amplified naturally. The goal, remember, is of course to be heard clearly. So you sing and then we can't exactly hear you clearly. Now, also keep in mind when we say hear you clearly in modern music, it is artistry, it is artistic. It does not just entail hearing the words, it means hearing the meaning. You understand? So when an artist is performing, you are hearing beyond the words of the song. You are hearing the feeling, the meanings of those words. Assuming an artist were to say, uh, ask in music, say, what do you feel like when you hear music? Okay, now the question is, what do you feel like when you hear music? I could sing, what do you feel like when you hear music? Without any, you hear the words. Of course, open throats, diaphragmatic voicing, singing is there, but you can't exactly come in. You can't capture meaning. You don't have to pull in. It's casual. You can't feel the meaning, like what we usually say. Someone steps on your food. That's in class. So someone steps on your food and just walks away and says, "I'm sorry, sorry, sorry," and you very much feel like you should carry your sorry and go. So, but someone else steps on your foot and he goes so passionately saying, "I'm sorry, yeah, I beg no vex," and all that. You know that, hey, this guy means the sorry. You understand? So it's what it is. Whether you mean the words, you could have, what do you feel like when you hear music? Does your heart begin to dance? Making harmony to melody. Okay, so just like that, can you feel the meaning of the words? Can you really be touched by the question of these words? So lyrics plus artistic expressions to drive home the meaning of the point. That is what we mean in modern music when we say hearing. Okay, so when we say hear the song, that is what we mean in modern music. It's not like what it used to be in quote when we just say thought sounds on thought sounds. That is, can you amplify your sound naturally? It's not that. So now it has gone beyond that. Yes, you can amplify. In fact, microphones would help you amplify the tiniest of sounds. And at the same time, it's not just that you amplify those tiny sounds, but do you really feel the meaning of those words through that sound? So if you have to use a particular technique, if you have to use a particular vocal effect to drive home the meaning, then it works. Okay, so keep that in mind, though that is not our lesson for today. Let's hurry back to our lesson for today because this is the beginning, this is the very first lesson of vocals. So, those joining us for the first time who have never been in any of our on site classes, Rehearsal House Music Productions, or Rehearsal House Nigeria, as it's popularly called, is a music academy, okay, based in Nigeria, and we're just beginning our online university kind of applied music programs. Okay, so and you we have diverse courses. Not to worry, you would be seeing very much different. Lessons from different courses across respective instruments. Okay, so it's applied music because our goal is to make every word of music theory to be understood in practical or performance or expressive situations. So when you have to perform, when you have to express that musical word, how does a rest feel like in singing? How does a crochet note, how does a quaver note, how do these things that you see, how do they exactly feel like, and not in dead forms, not like you're just stuck to paper memorizing things and no expression, no life, no freedom, no, not that. So that is it. So please, that's by the way of going back to introduce our academy. So what we have, if you can look through to the board there, introduction to vocals according to Rehearsal House. The first part one, is what I'm going to talk about today, and it is the voice as an instrument. That is the topic, and it's the first part of the topic anyway. Uh, there are several characteristics of the voice as an instrument, which we won't exhaust it in the VOC 100. Remember, it's just 3 sessions in VOC 100. Then we move to VOC 110. Okay. So now the first, which is what we're looking at, is tone production, generally called open throat. Now, why tone production? The first characteristic of an instrument is that it should be able to produce tones. You pick a guitar, even though the guitar is not tuned, and you are going to accept it as a guitar because it's able to produce tones. You have a keyboard here, it's not on, powered on. I'm touching it, but it it's not producing any tone. So you it's a musical instrument, but it's not producing tone. It's turned off. It's powered off. Now I have another one here. It's producing tone. So the first characteristic of any musical instrument that should qualify it to be a musical instrument is tone production. Same applies to the voice. If your voice can produce tone, that's why they say if you can talk, you can sing. If your voice can produce tone, then it meets tone production. However, you have to note something, and that is this, that we say tone production does not mean in vocal music now, doesn't mean even in instrumental music, doesn't mean you get a distuned guitar and of course it's a guitar, it produces tone, but it's out of tune. So the first thing you have to do is to put it in tune. That means in tone production, we have something which has to also qualify for tuning. That means you have to fine tune. So get the instrument in position to perform, in the right conditions to perform. In vocal music, the first element of this tuning is actually your open throat. Now, however, we are not going to be doing open throat in just in absentia, so to speak, from music theory or music learning. So we're going to be taking open throat in the context of the key names, musical keys. So C. So you're going to have to C G D A E B. All right, so we'll get to that shortly. So, but you have to, before we begin to talk about fine tuning, making sure we are singing from our diaphragm, that is the open throat, making sure we're singing correctly. We have to, before we do that, note the names of the keys in music, because those are the things, devices. Now these keys, musical keys, you must understand that they are representation of sounds. The keys are nothing in themselves, they are just representations. You use them to represent sound. We want to represent that sound. Da, da, da. Okay, that's a da. That is a sound we want to represent. So we just say C. We want to represent G. G. We want to represent da. So we pick a D. Okay, we want to represent we pick an A. All right, so you have to take note of that. That keys in themselves are just representations of sounds. So since we are going to be in singing, tone production, open throat, it is sounds we are going to be bringing forth.